Good afternoon, everyone. A warm welcome to today's webinar on BIS Certification and Compliance, Gateway to Global Market Access, organized by the Indo-American Chamber of Commerce in collaboration with Dezan Shira and Associates. Dezan Shira Associates is a leading pan-Asia professional services firm with over 30 years of experience helping international companies establish, manage, and grow their operation across Asia. With offices across India, China, ASEAN, and the Middle East, the firm provides legal, tax, and business advisory services, supporting global investors in navigating complex regulatory landscapes and expanding successfully in emerging markets. Our speakers for today are from Dezan Shira and Associates. A very warm welcome to Mr. Ankur Munjal, the country director of India, and Ms. Naina Bhardwaj, Senior Manager, International Business Advisories. Before we begin, I would like to just give you a brief on that what BIS certification and compliances is and why we have gathered here today. So to understand, I think me talking about it or anybody else talking about it, I'm sure Naina and Ankur, we have our people present over here and our attendees who are looking forward to hear from you. Few common questions which we will come across on the way, and audience, we will be more than happy to answer all your Q&As, which we will take it up once the presentation that our lovely speakers have presented for us. So to start, I would like to invite and request our first speaker, Mr. Ankur Munjal. He comes with over 18 years of experience in business consulting and advisory. He has worked with organizations across sectors like technology, manufacturing, healthcare, and financial services. Ankur specializes in guiding multinational companies through FDI norms, compliance, risk management, and business growth strategies in India and Asia. Well, Ankur, quite a lot of heavy words in your profile, I would say. So, Ankur, to begin with, could you please help us understand the basics of BIS certification, and as on date, why is it becoming increasingly important for both Indian and international businesses?
Thank you, Amrita. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, all of you, for joining this presentation today. And I would also like to thank IACC for organizing this webinar today. So yes, Amrita, I think BIS right now is one of the most discussed topics in the international trade community. BIS certification of products is kind of an assurance that your products meets the required standards, when it comes to safety and quality before it can be sold into the country. Now, it's very similar to the certifications or the CE certification of European Union or CCC certification of China, which is kind of a benchmark for the quality of the products which is sold in those specific regions and across the world as well. So BIS is nothing new for the world. It's more about developing a framework for India as well, which ensures that the products which are sold in India are of highest quality and safety, meeting the safety standards which are globally accepted. So I think that's the overall, purpose of having BIS in place. And I would like to inform the audience that BIS is something which is not a new concept in India. The latest BIS Act was passed way back in 2016. It is just that now the number of products in which BIS is applicable has increased significantly in the last 1 to 2 years. Now, some companies may see it as a trade barrier. However, other companies who are actually producing quality products are seeing it as an opportunity and edge over their competitors. So we are kind of hearing both the perspectives coming to us, and we are trying to make our best, to make the BIS journey easy for many foreign companies who are kind of willing to sell their products to India or export their products to India. That's what our larger focus is right now. Similarly, this is just an overview of the global production, global product certifications, which are followed by various other countries which are similar to BIS certification. For example, The first one, it's, let's say, Europe. As I mentioned to you, in Europe, we follow a CE marking. Similarly, in US, there are multiple certifications for different kind of products. Let's say it's UL for certain specific kind of products, and then there are other kind of products for consumer products as well. Similarly, for China, it's Triple C. In Germany, it is GS mark, and in Gulf countries, it is Gulf mark. Therefore, I think we can say that India is just trying to align itself with the global practices for product certification in India and ensuring that kind of level of quality being maintained throughout the world. Next slide, please. I think BIS, stands for the Bureau of Indian Standards, which is the India's national standards body. It is responsible for setting standards and certifying products that meet those standards. When a product, actually meets the required Indian standards, so the BIS officials grant them a well-known ISI mark, which everyone is aware about in India, which actually acts as India's official stamp of safety as well as quality. Now there are many questions which keeps on coming to us from various companies, that whether BIS is a mandatory process or it's a voluntary process. How should we go about it? Should we go about it right now, or should we really wait for it? So just to tell everyone, BIS is primarily a voluntary process. However, there is a big catch in that there are many products now which are notified by the government on which BIS is mandatory. So how it happens, how it works is that the government generally issues something called a quality control order, or in short form we call it a QCO order, which defines the product on which BIS is mandatorily applicable. So QCO is kind of a list of all the HSN codes and the products on which BIS is mandatory, and it's kind of issued by the government on time-to-time basis. Now, these QCOs are actually not issued by the BIS itself. They are issued by different kind of ministries, which takes care of electronics, chemicals, metals, household appliances, and many more sectors. If I talk about as on date, so India has issued 148 QCOs covering more than 700 products on which BIS is applicable, and the list is constantly growing because the coverage, the government is trying to ensure that majority of the products which are required for safety of the people and wherein the quality has to be ensured are covered in the QCOs, which is issued by the various ministries. I would say the key takeaway for the foreign companies is very simple, that if your product is getting covered under any QCO, BIS is something which is not optional. It is a mandatory thing for you, and it must be completed before you ship your products to India. Otherwise, your products are going to get stuck in the customs, and it's a very complicated process then to get your products out of the customs. So planning for BIS early will actually avoid the custom problems, the delays, or the penalties, and it will allow you to actually access the Indian market more smoothly and confidently. Can we move on, please? Now, as I was talking about in the previous slide, that BIS is governed by a BIS Act of 2016. So what we have done, we have just kind of carved out three key important sections from the Act. Number one is Section 16, which talks about the power to the government to issue QCOs on time-to-time basis, and which will list all the products on which the BIS is applicable. Similarly, we have Section 17, which states that any product which is mentioned in the QCO, it cannot be made, number one, imported or sold in India unless and until it meets the standard and carries the BIS mark on its product. So it also stops companies from making false claims or misusing the mark. Therefore, BIS is not only applicable for the foreign companies, it is equally applicable for the Indian companies, because the Act makes it very clear that it has to be made, imported, or sold. So it is applicable to an Indian organization as well. Now, sometimes the questions do come up that what will happen if we don't really comply with that? What can really go wrong with us in terms of the penalties or in terms of, what are the consequences of not meeting the requirements of the BIS? So government has very clearly, categorically mentioned that in section 29 that if you are not complying with the norms, then there are chances of heavy penalties which can range up to 10 times of the value of goods which you have produced or even sold in the last 1 year. Number two, it also carries a very strong provision of imprisonment up to 2 years if you are kind of selling or importing the non-certified products. And this offense is, by the way, cognizable offense, which means that the arrest can happen without even a warrant. So government is kind of very serious when it comes to BIS implementations, and the seriousness is growing every day. So if your product is getting covered under a QCO, you must get the BIS certification before you plan to enter the Indian market or sell your products into the Indian market. Can we move on, please? Right. So if I talk about the types of BIS certification schemes, right now in India, we have 4 schemes under the BIS certification regime. Number 1 is the Scheme 4, and number 2 is the Scheme 1, which is the foreign FMCS, we call it FMCS scheme, which is Foreign Manufacturer Certification Scheme. So majority of the foreign companies who wants to kind of sell their products in India generally fall under Scheme 4 or Scheme 1, depending on the category of the products. These are the 2 primary routes for the foreign companies who sell their products in India. And these are used by both the domestic as well as the foreign manufacturers. And for most of the regulated products, one of these 2 schemes will be actually your primary pathway to the BIS certification. Now we have the other scheme as well, which is CRS scheme, which is very specific to the IT and the electronic components under the Ministry of Electronics and IT. And this is basically applicable for things like laptops, mobile phones, adapters, LEDs, and so on. But finally, there is Scheme X, which is used for certain category of capital goods and machinery, but only where a QCO specifically requires it or maybe covers these kind of products on that specific product category, Scheme X will be applicable. So in simpler terms, if you are a foreign company selling into India, your main certification routes will usually be Scheme 4 or FMCS scheme, unless you're in electronics wherein CRS applies. But it is very important for you to assess that which scheme is actually applicable to you, because it will change the entire process going forward, which you will understand in the subsequent sections as well. Right. So right now, as I was talking earlier, there are 143 QCOs, for product certification are already in force, covering about 634 products. And then there are 28 QCOs which are in the pipeline. So once those come into effect, we'll be looking at 171 QCOs, close to 700 products. However, for product registration mainly for electronics under the CRS scheme, there are 5 QCOs already active and 1 more under implementation. So in total, India has right now 148 QCOs which are already implemented, covering 700 products. And this number is steadily increasing as new QCOs are announced. The key message for foreign companies is very simple. India is expanding its list of products that require mandatory BIS certification. So it's very important for them to regularly check whether your product category has been added to the new QCOs or not. So maybe you can engage someone who can really, look at these kind of product categories on time to time basis and update the organizations. So this is a very important slide, which talks about the deadlines or the due dates by which BIS certification has to be taken by companies to be able to sell or import their products in India. For example, the deadline for electric equipment is 19th March 2026. Similarly, for machinery and equipment, the deadline was earlier for September, which has now been extended. Recently, it has been extended to a later date. However, even if it is extended, but we would still like to recommend the companies not to wait till the end and start their BIS process now, because BIS process actually takes a lot of time to get certified. Similarly, some of the key dates which are approaching now is additive salts, which is 13th of March, industrial acids, which is 13th of May, furniture, including chairs, tools, tables, etc., that is 14th of February. For metals, it is 17th of April 2026. In a nutshell, the deadlines are really approaching very fast, and it's high time that the companies should really start the application process without further delays. Now I would like to hand over the session to my colleague Naina, and over to you, Amrita, to take it forward with Naina.
Thank you, Ankur. I think Amrita has facing some technical issues, so I'll just probably continue the conversation. So,
Right.
thank you so much, Ankur, for setting the context. Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today. Ankur talked about the what BIS is all about, what the applicability is, and why you as foreign companies should be concerned about it. It's become the buzzword for everybody. It has troubled many foreign companies. We completely understand that. But at the same time, like Ankur mentioned, that BIS is not new. It has been into existence since 1947. There were multiple iterations of the very same act that kept on coming in. Of course, the latest one being in 2016. However, in the last 2 years, many QCOs, mandatory quality control orders were released by the government, because of which many product categories which were earlier not mandatory were now mandated to get a certification done. And that is the reason it has become important for you as foreign companies who are exporting their products to India to understand what the process is all about, why it is important, what are the key schemes that you will be impacted by, what is the process to apply through those schemes, and the approximate costs, timelines, etc. So, as foreign manufacturers, there are two schemes that you have to be primarily concerned about. The first is the FMCS scheme, or Scheme 1. This scheme basically applies to almost all the category of goods except for electronics and machinery and equipment sector, for which we have separate schemes called the CRS, and we have separate schemes called the CRS and the Scheme X. So here I'll talk about FMCS scheme first, applicable to the wide variety of product categories. So what exactly is FMCS? It is a scheme under the BIS licenses, under which licenses are granted to foreign manufacturers in accordance with the BIS Act. The license is issued for the products that conform to the applicable Indian standards that may fall under the mandatory or the voluntary certification, and it is granted for a specific location where your products are being manufactured. Now, this is very important for you to understand that if your manufacturing, if your unit is producing multiple category of goods which may fall under different Indian standard codes, then you will have to have a separate license for each category of those goods. At the same time, if, for example, you're a US manufacturer who has got a manufacturing facility in Texas and in somewhere else, maybe say in New York, so you have to get the certification for both of these manufacturing facilities, even if you're producing the same category of good. So now this is a certification for the product category and for the manufacturing unit. This is something that is very important for you to understand. Talking about, so I'll just give you a very brief overview here about the process, and I'll go into the details much later. So the brief overview is like there's an application that has to be submitted to the BIS. Post the submission of the application, officer is nominated to your particular file, who goes through the file and then plans an audit, a factory audit, to visit your manufacturing facility to assess that whatever claims that you have made in your application about your product, about the quality, are you actually complying with that? If yes, then they come back, they give their the reviews, and they kind of approve the file, and then you get your license. It looks like a pretty straightforward process on paper. It is a bit complicated. It, of course, a lot of nitty-gritties and externalities are involved, which takes the time, which require expert insight. But all in all, in our experience, if you're a foreign manufacturer, this entire process takes around 7 to 8 months to get your certification done under the Indian Standard Codes FMCS scheme. Talking a bit about FMCS scheme, so the process is very simple. The initial assessment, like I mentioned, involves a factory audit wherein your manufacturing and testing capabilities are primarily tested. Once you have successfully got the license, now it is very, very important for you to understand there is a surveillance that goes on. The government is also concerned that when you get this license, you are maintaining the quality. You are not just it's not like you got the license for 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, and then you can be relaxed. That's not true. So they can, do a surprise audit at your factory. They can do a surprise market audit, in the sense that they could probably pick up your product from the market and test it for the quality controls that you have claimed in your application. If it is fine, it's all good to go. If it is not, then the penalties that Ankur spoke about in the beginning for the contravention of, not really following the applicable rules, then those penalties kind of apply for not following. Talking about the other kind of scheme that we mentioned, it is Scheme X. It is very important for machinery and equipment manufacturers. It is a relatively new scheme that was launched last year, and covers 20 categories of goods right now. I can read it out for your convenience. So the first is pumps and liquid elevators. Then we have compressors, machinery involving temperature changes like ovens, furnaces. We have centrifuges and filtering machinery, packaging, filling, sealing, and labeling machinery. We have cranes, construction, earth moving, etc., metal cutting, mining machine tools. So we'll be sharing this presentation with you, and you can just go through the entire list yourself. So all of the goods which have an additional safety component associated with them, wherein the safety of the manufacturing process is probably as important as the product itself, it is at that point the conformity Scheme X is applicable. Talking about the workflow, I can probably explain the workflow later on in more detail. I'll just talk about few attributes and comparisons of the three different schemes over here. So how is FMCS different from Scheme X? Of course, the product categories are different. But under the FMCS, the testing happens at a later stage. It can be done at a government approved lab also. However, under Scheme X, the testing is the very first step. So when there is a technical file that is prepared, you need to mandatorily have a test report with you of your product that should not be more than a year old. Now, that's one thing that's extremely important. Another thing that's important for you to note here is that when you get an FMCS certification done, you get an ISI mark. So you have to put this mark on your product, or you could put your mark on your packaging also, or on both, depending on the kind of product that you have. For Scheme X, there are two different kinds of licenses you could get. One is definitely a license, the mark that you get for Scheme X. The other could be a certificate of conformity. Now, certificate of conformity is important, particularly for those manufacturers who are producing prototypes, or their production is not an ongoing activity. They are only producing in lots or batches. For them, you get a certificate of conformity, which is like a one-time allotment. It is not renewable, unlike a license, which has a duration, right? So for a Scheme X, you get the license for around 3 years to 6 years. For in Scheme 1, FMCS, you get the license for 1 to 2 years. Again, renewable and extendable for up to 5 years. So that was a very brief overview about the comparison of the different kinds of schemes. Technical regulation. So under Scheme X, the government releases omnibus technical regulation, which kind of controls the specific standards, testing the safety standards, like I mentioned initially. So this is just a brief overview of that. In this section, I will deep dive into the processes that are, at play when you apply for the BIS, and I'll deep dive into a step-by-step procedure and how you can plan your, application process accordingly, and how we can support you in this process. All right. So the very first, I'll first talk about the BIS certification procedure under the FMCS scheme, that is Scheme 1, which is applicable for most of the Indian standards, be it 3021 or many others, right? 302, 415, etc. So the very first step here is application submission. So at this point, what we usually do is we give you a detailed list of documents we require from you. Now this detailed list of documents include your brand name, your regulation, your product varieties, the supplier information, all of those details to give a very, very good overview to the manufacturer or to the auditor of what kind of processes or products you're producing. So we request this information from you. One important consideration at this stage is that as a foreign company, it is absolutely essential for you to have an authorized Indian representative who could act as your, representative in front of the BIS. So this is important because, as a foreign entity who does not really have a presence in India, if the government has to approach somebody for understanding is the license, when you have taken the license, are you compliant or not, they need to have an Indian resident who can be answerable on your behalf. Now, this is something similar to MCA, Ministry of Corporate Affairs Act, wherein you mandatorily require a resident director in India. It's a statutory position, but government needs somebody resident in India to be your representative. So in this process also, you need an AIR who could be your representative in front of the government to assure them that yes, this company is compliant and is actually following the processes they promised on their application. So when we file this application, the nomination of this authorized Indian representative goes along with in this particular file. So when we prepare this file for you, it is submitted to the BIS after an intense internal scrutiny is done by the experts. Once the BIS receives it, they do their own scrutiny. They kind of do a thorough check to see if there are any deficiencies or, if any items are missing. If yes, they return the file back to us saying that these are the items you need to correct. We kind of work on those deficiencies. We send the file back to them. Once the file is marked completed, it is submitted with the BIS, after which there are officials allotted to your file who will now conduct a factory inspection, the field audit, right? So now this is a process which kind of takes, this is an externality which kind of takes time, because there are, as we're all aware, certain vacancies or certain staff, inefficiencies at the government end. And there has been a, explosion of applications from all over the world. So this allotment kind of takes time. So you have to ensure that you start the process at the earliest, so that you are in the queue for the allotment of the said concerned officer, who can then go to your facility, conduct the audit, come back, give his remarks that everything is in line, everything is proper, and so that your file can probably move ahead and you can get your license. So, once this individual visits your factory, they kind of collect a sample from there. They give it to the facility to conduct a testing on that particular sample. They get the test report. If the test report meets the standards that are demanded by the authorities, they process your file. Once your file is processed, you pay the fee to the officials, to the government officials. Our advice here is that if you're a foreign company and you're paying, you pay a bit more so that you avoid the conversion rates, because the bank only only credits the exact amount to the BIS, the one they have received, and money is sometimes lost in conversion. So therefore, maybe $10-15 additional if you pay, you can avoid the risk of lower payment comparatively. Once the payment has been done, then there are two other additional steps that are done. One, the indemnity agreement is signed. with the AIR. And secondly, there is something called as a performance bank guarantee that you have to deposit with the government. It is amounting to 10,000 US dollars. Now, this is again a sticky point that we have seen, when many of our clients have found an issue with this particular amount. So this is essentially a refundable deposit. However, the catch here is that it remains with the government for the duration of your license period. So, until and unless you surrender your license, you do not really get the security deposit back. So technically, it sits with the government, because if you are investing this amount of money to get the certification, it would not really make sense to surrender it unless you change your India plans and you do not really want to do business in India anymore, right? So I'll just explain the rationale for this amount also. It is basically to ensure that, if by any means any of your product causes an accident in India, this amount could be used to secure, to kind of pay damages to the person who was the victim of such an accident. So that's the intent with which the government takes this deposit. So after all of this process, you're successfully granted the license. And once you are granted, it's usually for a 1 to 2 year duration, depending on which product category you fall under. And it is renewable for up to 5 years. So that's the overview of the process. This is a step-by-step breakdown. So I think I'll focus more on the step 1 here. I think Ankur also spoke about it. As foreign companies, I think one of the challenges that we have practically seen that you face is the inability to kind of translate your HS codes or your products to the relevant Indian standard codes, now, which is the very first step. So the very first step that we had usually advise them to do is do this preliminary assessment. If you are, say, exporting, the number of products is very high, you just send us the list of documentation along with the HSN codes and along with your product specifications, and we'll be very happy to do this analysis for you, that which product or which product or which IS code is your product falling under. Accordingly, we'll be able to assess which scheme is applicable. Is it scheme X? Is it scheme 1? FMCS scheme, or is it a registration scheme, right? So that's very important. The second stage, like I had already talked about, it's the due diligence. So what we additionally do is, when we receive the documentation from you, there's a very detailed list of documentation that kind of goes out. What we do at our end is do a very, very thorough due diligence of those documents, so that you do not really have to waste your time in case it's returned back by the BIS. So that is an additional step that we take care of. The other steps, I think I already spoke about: the product testing, report generation, or the application drafting and submission. So this is something that usually 70-80% of the work is done by the company that you kind of outsource to do this application procedure for you. 20% of the work has to be done by the manufacturers themselves when it comes to provision of documents or advising on the nitty-gritties of the matters. So all of these steps are very technical, and usually the consultant you hire takes care of all of these steps for you, to ensure that you do not really have to deal with all the technicalities. Right. So step 5, step 6, basically. So this kind of includes a very thorough follow-up with the authorities, with the government, to see where your file is stuck once it's submitted. There could be, bottlenecks. Maybe, say, file is stuck at one place, it's not moving forward. So, consultants who are usually working on your project, they have a good liaison with the authorities, and they kind of ensure that there is constant communication happening at the government ends to ensure that your file is not really stuck because of any inefficiencies, right? So that's the overview of the FMCS Scheme 1 procedure. Now I will talk about the Scheme X. Now this is extremely important because the procedure is a bit more complicated here, and this is particularly relevant for machinery and equipment sector. So in this step, the very first step is to, in this scheme, the very first step is to register you with the OTR portal. OTR is the Omnibus Technical Regulation portal, that yes, this company wants to apply for a Scheme X BIS license under Scheme X in India. At the same time, we start mapping your products to the relevant Indian standards, and we start kind of mapping the guidelines that are applicable to your product. Once that has been done, what follows next is the preparation of the technical file, for which we roll out a very very detailed list of a list of documents that we need from you. I have prepared a summary of it. I'll just probably share it with you. Yeah. So this is what your initial documentation checklist. This is, of course, a condensed version of it, but I just wanted to give you an overview of the preparation that you as foreign companies need to do if you want to start the process. So here is the checklist, the application form. We'll be happy to share the format with you. Proof of establishment, in case you have a branch office or a liaison office, etc. in India, we need the proof of establishment. If you do not have it, that's fine. We need your process flow chart, which details the complete manufacturing process. Apart from that, we need the appointment letter or the qualification or experience letter of your in-house testing expert or your quality assurance expert. This is a mandatory requirement, like I mentioned, to have your testing facility at your company, at your manufacturing unit. So we can provide the appointment letter format or template to you, but it is important that you have to have this person in-house appointed in your company who is able to run these tests for you before you kind of dispatch the goods out. Then, of course, we would need detailed factory layout plan, your machinery, your lab locations, etc. We need your business license with factory addresses and scope. We need your brand name declaration. Then we need quality assurance systems if you have any international certifications like ISO 9001, 14001, etc. We need a detailed list of your in-house quality assurance measures, be it inspection, test plan, etc. What we require is product descriptions, different types, grades, and sizes. We require specified product requirements, the photographs, clear images of the products that you're manufacturing at your facility. And then, of course, basic details like your name, your address, etc. Then, of course, there is another category of Excel sheet wherein we require information like raw materials, like are there any suppliers you're procuring it from? If yes, what is the name of that particular supplier? What is the batch number, or what is the nature of the packing, or manufacturing machinery details, similar ones. So this is an overview of the kind of initial document checklist or list that we send out to you. And in our experience, companies usually take around 1 to 1.5 months to be able to arrange all of them together and to be able to send out the first copy in first go. And then we do a thorough due diligence on our end to see whether everything is proper, has everything been sent in the right format or not. If not, then of course we send it back to you, and that back and forth in our experience approximately takes 2 to 3 weeks. Right. So this technical file that I'm talking about requires all of that information that I just shared with you, along with the test report that should not be that should not be more than a year old. So once all of these details are there, we prepare your technical file in consultation with you, and then we submit it to the BIS authorities. And then the process is pretty much similar. They kind of look at the file, they run this thorough check on it. If there are any deficiencies, they return it back to us with comments, we send it back to them. Once they record the application saying yes, this application looks good on paper, we are finally approving and submitting it with us, then we kind of then we kind of coordinate with them about the movement of it. Once it is submitted, you are allotted 2 desk officials who do a thorough desk audit of your file. So all of this information, I am sure many of you would be concerned about the fact that these are very technical details and sometimes very, private details about, say, manufacturing layout or factory layout, etc. Right? So these are very important from the perspective of doing that desk audit to check whether your manufacturing processes are following the right safety standards or not. And what we usually do in this particular, so that's a pain point our clients have kind of raised in the past, that
Nena, just to interrupt, if you
yes.
can explain this maybe with a like an example that at Dezan Shira you would have come across these things, where these steps have really worked out in benefit and it has really seen the result. where your clients have been benefited from it. So I think that is
Right.
something our attendees would like to understand. And
Abs-
I think that will give a
Absolutely.
much clearer idea to them.
Right. So I'll be happy to do that. Thanks for that. So, like I mentioned that, many of our clients, so majority of our clients are from the North America and from Europe. And particularly for Europe, there are, of course, divisions. So from Germany, from Switzerland, from Poland, majority of our clients come from for the Scheme X application, right? But from Spain, but from, the US, or from many other countries like Australia, majority of our clients have come for the FMCS. So, initially when I talked about the bottlenecks or the pain points that arise from the very first step, so the very first bottleneck is having a concern about giving out those details, which are, very secretive. Why would anybody share their manufacturing layout, the factory layout, without having that faith? So at that point in time, we assure them that, look, this information remains only with two parties, us as your consultants and the government. And us as your consultants sign an NDA that you give to us to ensure that apart from us and within us, within the consultant firm also, only the authorized personnel who are working on your case have access to that information, nobody else, right? And then this information directly goes to the government. So that kind of gives our clients some comfort in terms of, being able to share that kind of information. So that's the initial pain point. Apart from that, like I mentioned, so in our experience of having assisted different companies, SchemeX is something that our clients have usually taken like 1.5 to 2 months sometimes to come back with all of the information that I have detailed. Not
So,
everything is
right,
available in handy, right?
right. I
Ankur,
think just
if
to
you
add
would
on
like to
to
add to it.
just add on
Yes.
to
Right.
what Naina has mentioned. So there are many practical challenges which we keep on seeing and looking at while the BIS applications comes to us. Many of the times we have seen that companies, are kind of told by the consultants that BIS is applicable to you. But once we thoroughly review the documentation, the HSN codes, how that product is going to get used, it finally uncovers like that the BIS is not applicable to you, and vice versa as well. So it is very important uh, for every organization to just look at the list of the HSN codes, how whether it's a component, whether it's an assembly, a sub-assembly, or whether it's a kind of raw material which will get imported. Everything changes when these kind of things are kind of defined very clearly. So I think I would request everyone to just relook at the HSN codes and try to map it to the QCO. It's a difficult job. I am 100% sure many of the companies won't be able to do it very straightforward, to be very honest, because we have experience into it and we have also learned over the course of time since the BIS has been implemented. The other thing, important thing which comes to us is, you know, there is no specific checklist or defined list of combined list of all the BIS components, or I would say the QCOs, which is there. You have to go to different ministries, find out which QCO order is there, and under that QCO order, you will find different kind of HSN codes mentioned over there. So it's a very cumbersome exercise, and it's highly prone to errors that people just miss on those specific components. So that is
Okay.
one part I think that needs to be taken care of by all the organizations. And I think one of the questions which I was just looking at was on the similar lines. The other question
Yeah.
which I think which came to us, maybe I'll not be able to pick up everything, but yeah, whatever I've seen
Right.
till now, is more on that every whether the shipment which comes to the port, is every shipment being thoroughly reviewed. So the answer is yes, every shipment is being thoroughly reviewed. Now, are they going to get physically check every shipment? The answer is no, it is not practically possible. So every uh, custom port has their own systems, their own risk management monitoring systems, which, based upon that, they run the checks on the HSN codes which you are kind of getting into the country. And if the declaration from your side is wrong, then please be prepared for the consequences in terms of the penalties and confiscation of your goods on the port itself. So it's a major risk which no one wants to really take. So it's better that you declare it well, irrespective of whether they're going ahead and checking everything physically or not. That shouldn't matter to you. because it's kind of a legal requirement. We should be, willing to comply with that to avoid any kind of concerns.
Exactly.
So I think I would just hand it over back to Naina to just continue with the discussion, and we can take the subsequent questions towards the end of the presentation in the interest of time.
Right. Thank you, Ankur, for that input, and thank you, Amrita. So, yeah, we were talking about the practical challenges. I think Ankur highlighted some. I think in our discussions, one of our clients had this very interesting business case, wherein what they were doing was they were basically aggregating, spare parts or components from all over the world, and now they were assembling at a particular location. Now, some of the products were also being exported to India as complete products. So, I'm sure all of you are aware that under the Scheme X, initially the entire machine, spare parts, and assemblies, sub-assemblies, components, everything was subject to BIS certification. However, the government kind of realized it was really problematic, and then they kind of excluded all the spare parts, components, sub-assemblies, and only the full machines were now required to get the certification. So we advised our client that what you could probably do is that if you are able to export spare parts or components from all over the world and do a certification at one facility in India, and then that final product is going out to for the end use, then you only get certification for this final product at your facility, and it will work out for you. Right. So it is an evolving space wherein the solutions are also evolving every day. The government is also kind of in the process of making policies for this particular specifically Scheme X, right? So with every case in our experience has been different of dealing with different kind of clients. So what the recommendation remains the same, that it's very important that you start with this assessment of your product. It's not really necessary that your product may fall under the Scheme X or the BIS FMCS Scheme 1. So in that particular case, you need to have an order from the government, an NOC from the government, that this product, despite being in the despite falling under the HSN code, is not falling under this particular product category. So this is also something that we have done for one of our clients. They were falling under the HSN code category, but they were not under the mandatory BIS. So we got an NOC for them. So this assessment actually decides how you have to proceed forward. Do you have to get the certification? Do you not have to get the certification? Yes, but that is a fact that unless you have clarity, your product will not be allowed to enter the Indian port. That is sacrosanct. That is not changing. So you have to act in the interest of time to ensure that your product is, you don't reach a stage wherein your product is standing at the port and it's not being allowed inside the country. You need to have clarity beforehand, whether it's exempted, whether you require it. If you require it, you act on it right now. Another latest development, I think Ankur covered it, that the Scheme X deadline, which was initially 1st of September 2026, it has been extended further. Thanks, big relief to all of our clients and to us also. But having said that, what I would like to highlight here is that this deferment does not mean, they have not revoked the order. So it is extremely important for you to understand that you have to start the procedure. The reason for that being that there are two BIS officials who are allotted to your file, both for desk audit and for factory audit. And we already know about the vacancies or the staff inefficiencies at present at the BIS end, right? So there is a very, very big chance that if you start your application today, your application will be allotted to the respective BIS officer maybe after 6 months or 8 months. That is precisely the reason why government decided to extend the timelines, because almost everybody, thanks to the deadline that was literally 10 months away, everybody started applying, and they realized that they did not really have the capability to cater to all of those applications, particularly with respect to the alignment of, field visits and factory audits. That's why the government kind of extended the timeline. So if you apply for it today, you will still be in queue for getting that allotment done, and you will then eventually get your audit done probably in 10 months, 12 months, maybe a year, maybe 1.5 years. So that's our 2 cents on our experience so far of having dealt with the certification process for our clients. I'll move on to the next slide, talk about the AIR. Like I mentioned that, there are particular conditions that foreign companies have to mandatorily fulfill. If you're applying for a BIS in India, one of them is submission of your file in a hard copy. Very strange, I know, but that is how it has to be. So you have to submit a hard copy of your application to the BIS. The second very important one is the authorized Indian representative. I already spoke about it. This individual has to be an Indian resident, and look at it like this. So if you are not fulfilling your promises, it is this person's neck on the line in front of the government. So usually we advise our clients that if you have, if you have a presence in India, if you have an employee, if you have an agent, distributor, make them your authorized Indian representative. Like, who knows your organization better than them? However, if you do not have such kind of support, then we are happy to provide that support to you. So we usually do it on a complimentary basis to our clients who do the certification through us. So because we understand it's very difficult to have somebody playing an AIR for you without any association with you. So these are the basic requirements of an authorized Indian representative. Ankur,
I
yes?
think we can move on because the time is kind of running a little short.
Okay.
So
Okay.
maybe we can just
Okay. All right. So
Yeah.
I'll just quickly kind of cover the key considerations here. So multiple manufacturing locations, irrespective of the number of locations, you have to get the certification for each one of them. Again, same for different product variants. If you have different product variants within the same manufacturing facility, you need to have multiple licenses. If there are any changes to your factory of of your product, then you have to notify. There will be a reassessment that will be done, and the process will follow. Similarly, you have to be very, very careful about the updates to Indian QCOs. Like, the government is releasing new ones, they have rescinded some of them. So just be updated. If not, you can follow us for more information on that. And this is the brief overview of the
Right.
considerations. We'll be happy to
Right.
share the slides with you.
I think there are few more questions which kind of keeps on coming, that especially the specialized components which are produced out of the country now, and they are somehow falling under the QCOs, and the foreign company manufacturer is not really willing to go for the BIS certification. So that's a practical challenge which we have been facing, but unfortunately that is something which can't be dealt at my level. I think it's something which is to be dealt by the government, because the law is law. The custom officers have a list, they kind of review it. The only thing is that we can try to, even though your HSN code is there reflecting in the QCO, we can study it further in detail, and there can be certain scenarios that despite it being present in the QCO, your product is still not kind of getting covered under that specific QCO because of the use case or whatever you may want to call it. So everything has to be technically assessed, and I think over the last 2 years we have become technical experts into advising companies whether it is getting covered or not getting covered in that specific category. And we have specially onboarded BIS officials with us who study every file very carefully. The people who have retired in the organization, they study every file very carefully. They exactly know what is getting covered, what is not getting covered. So the advice is much more mature for everyone, from in our client base. So I think that is one part which I would like to highlight to everyone. So every case is different. You can reach out to us, and we can be there to help you out. Certain practical tips which I mentioned earlier as well, that start early, don't wait till the last date. In India, it's a big problem that people just want to wait till the last moment, and then the entire business goes for haywire. The other important thing is that the check applicability carefully. This is one of the most important ones which I've been talking about time and again, that send your HSN codes, get it validated before you start your application process. Get your documentation in order, because when the audit happens, it's a detailed audit. The factory visit happens. The design of the products are looked at. The design of the machineries are looked at. So we need to have all those blueprints in place to be able to submit to the authorities. And most importantly, please, whosoever your consultants are, just work with good consultants who have track record of processing these kind of applications. In the past 6 months, I have handled so many cases which are like in a very bad shape, due to some of the other reasons. So it's better to work and appoint good qualified people whom you have experienced of working before as well. And I think that's the limited piece of information which I would like to communicate. Everything can't be covered in 1 hour, but yeah, I think we tried to cover up whatever maximum we could have covered up in this entire 1 hour. Thank you, Naina, for summarizing the process, such a lengthy process in maybe 30 minutes time span.
First of all, thank you, Naina and Ankur. So I think we have a little bit time. If you both are okay with it, then we can look into a few of the questions that has come up by the attendees. So over here, let's see, there's one question. I mean, any one of you can answer that. That can the allotment of BIS officials for audit be speed up by paying some fees, or it is like just because it's getting handled more by the government, or is there any process that it makes it delayed or something like that?
No,
I don't know
I would like
exactly.
to answer that. No, it doesn't happen like that. And even the allocation of the officers is done through a centralized process. It's not that, you won't be able to even know by you filing the application. The application goes into the system. The officers are automatically allocated. There is no process to speed up the things. And there is no licensing which can happen in that. So if I put it correctly. So the only key is to start early.
Yeah. So the other one is one of them is mentioning that there was a notification 2-3 days back which exempted PVC manufacturing companies from BIS certification. So now Outtoy is made around 100% from their products are made from 100% from food grade PVC. So should they apply for BIS, or these kind of industries and these kind of products can be exempted, and where can they get this information?
All right, so I'll address that question. Yes, it's a fact that there have been certain QCO orders that have been rescinded by the government recently. PVC has been one of those industries. However, to be able to confirm whether your product falls under that category, or are there any variations due to which it does not really qualify, we'll be happy to confirm it with you. So you can share your query with us and we'll revert back with a more technical analysis on the same.
Sure. I think this is one question which has been already answered, that how the Indian manufacturers can leverage BIS certification to expand their sales and marketing in the international market. And is there a BIS requirement for import of fruits, vegetables, processed products, food products?
Processed food products, yes, definitely. Fruits and vegetables, not as of now.
Okay.
Yeah.
And is there any place where, because we spoke a lot on the HSN codes, right? So, and obviously every product has got, as far as my understanding goes, that everything has got a different HSN number. So those HSN code, is there any particular portal from where, if they don't know what their HSN code is, where can they get to know that for their product, what would be the HSN code?
Okay, Ankur, do you want to address it, or should I?
So I think there is no specific portal per se, but yeah, every HSN code, has a typical definition of what kind of products will get covered in that. If there is some products which you are not really sure of, you can send those products to us. Let the technical team at the back end do some research on those products, and we can get you the HSN codes for that.
Yes. So, on the official, just to add to Ankur's remarks here, the official BIS website only has the IS codes, the product name, category name, and the corresponding Indian standard code. HS code is something that so when you are exporting a product to India, you kind of enter that particular HS code number. If you are not aware of it, that's all right. Send the product images and specifications to us. We'll be happy to tell you what HS code is applicable here.
If you're okay, can we take a couple of more questions?
Yes, absolutely.
Please.
They're saying that the certificate of conformity is more or less similar to the one done internally in a manufacturing site or factory. So what additional protection layer will BIS provide by putting such certification? Because inside a factory, while checking pilot lot, those all, like, what kind of layers is gonna, like, an additional protection can be provided?
They are not
So I think
providing any
it's
layer.
yeah. It's kind of you know, a certificate of conformity. It's kind of self-certification. In the factory, that okay, I'm certifying that my products are absolutely safe. But a government organization doesn't work like that. They want to certify your products because they are the auditors for that product. They want to come on board. They want to see whether your product, what you are claiming, is actually meeting the requirements or not meeting the requirements. And they have their own set standards to evaluate the products. So certificate of conformity can't be replaced by the BIS certification.
So, Ankur, I'm just stepping in here because I think, firstly, thanks to Naina and you for this fabulous presentation. I think you've tried to simplify something which is so damn complicated. Okay, and we don't have a BIS practice in the firm, but we know the complexity that this practice has. And thanks a lot for untying it quite easily for all of us. But what I think is, given the number of questions, which almost halves the number of participants here on the seminar, we should probably do an episode 2, because there are just so many questions, and not at the cost of taking away your consultancy and expertise. But it's important that, there are just too many questions. It's astounding number of questions that we're seeing on this, on the chat box here. Couple of questions which were asked early on, and I'm just pulling this up for your attention, is they import special products, special metal parts specifically designed, suitable for high-tech application. Then the question they're asking is, do they need a BIS certification for something like this? And the related question is, in listed capital goods machinery, what about alloy steel and stainless steel components that go into the manufacturing of these machineries? Do they also require a BIS certification?
Okay, so Jerry, I will address those questions for you. So for the first question, yes, BIS will be applicable to the products, steel products that go into the production of high-tech machinery. To answer your second question, the BIS won't be applicable to components, spare parts, assemblies, or subparts which go into the production of the complete machinery. They have been excluded from the scope in the regulation that was released by the government 3 months ago. So now, under the Scheme X, only the complete machinery will have to get the BIS certification, not the components or parts or subparts.
So just one additional question, right? So typically when we do a merger or an acquisition in our world of corporate law, so if there is a stipulation for us to say, okay, these are the components you guys are bringing into the country, go and get the required certification under the respective schemes, what is the broad timeline one needs to prepare for? Is it 6 months, 9 months? Somebody's posted a similar question, so I'm just picking it up as an example.
So Jerry, it's kind of 6 to 9 months, and it also depends on the number of technical files which are going into it. Because every product, there can be situations wherein multiple products can be clubbed into a single technical file, and there can be situation every product may require a separate technical file to be processed in the BIS department. So it all depends on how many technical files are there. Generally, what we have seen in our experience, 6 to 9 months is the indicative timeline for people to get the BIS certification done.
Okay.
There can be certain claims of 3 months, 4 months, but it just doesn't work like that, because there are so many files, so many cases, and the staff in the BIS department is very less. The trained people who can go and audit these specific factories, and people have to travel abroad to to the factory manufacturing locations to verify those specific claims.
And I just want to add to that, Jerry, 6 to 9 months is the time duration for the FMCS Scheme 1 after you have submitted the application, right? So of course, there is some timeline associated before you submit, so I talked about the IRL list, the due diligence that we do, etc., etc. So in general, you can assume 8 to 10 months or maybe 11 months sometimes. But when we talk about Scheme X, it takes longer. The reason for that is that obviously the list is huge, so the time taken by the company is huge. But once your file is submitted, there is a requirement of 2 BIS officials who have to do a factory audit, right? Now, practically talking, it is very important to align the dates of these 2 BIS officials to match their factory visit time and align it with the availability of the manufacturer at their manufacturing location in a foreign country. So sometimes one BIS official is probably not available, so the other has to wait and they have to visit together. So that's an externality that's written nowhere, but that's a practical challenge that we have seen in case of our clients. So you take into account additional 2-3 months on account of that lack of alignment between the two officials. So you can safely assume 10, 12, 13, 14, 15 months in case of Scheme X because of the lack of availability and allotment related challenges also.
Thank you. That's very useful. That would have been my second question in terms of foreign visits, facilitating foreign visits to BIS officials. Yeah.
Right.
But thank you very much. Amrita, Stephen, if you guys have...
Naina, I think I'll have one more question. That is, what is the process for importing a product from a customer who wants to do the BIS certification and the product doesn't have the BIS as of now?
So we can get
So
it done
what
for
will
them.
be
The process is the same, right? They have to. The only difference is there are certain QCOs for which they have to mandatorily get it done. So they don't really have an option. But if somebody wants to do it, even if it's not mandatory, it's a great thing. And the process is pretty much similar. So we will first understand what HS code they're falling under, what IS code are they falling under, accordingly understand what scheme is it. Is it Scheme X or is it Scheme 1? And if whatever it is, we'll accordingly start the process and they can get it done ASAP after that.
So the process remains the same. It's just
Absolutely.
that it will have to be done before you obtain the product. I mean, before you import the product.
Customs
Yes.
is a major gatekeeper. The product will get stuck at customs if it doesn't have that ISI marker on it.
Okay. And when the product is already having CE and other international certificates, why is a separate factory visit needed?
So Indian government, has its own norms. They want to have their own certification norms. So the government and everyone respect the CE norm or the CCC norm in China. But every country has their own norms, and India has all the right to, bring its own quality standards, which are more or less aligned. If your product is CE qualified or CCC qualified, I'm sure that those are global standards, and the BIS can also be kind of picked up.
Definitely helps, having those certifications kind of frames the mindset of the auditor in a way that they go with a very fresh mind that, the company is compliant in all respects. So the mindset is built from the desk audit stage itself, right? And then the audit is a very smooth process, the factory audit after.
So, Ankur, Naina, like there are many questions which I'm seeing on mainly that, they're asking, is BIS necessary for this product, like for fruits, vegetables, lithium batteries, EVs? So is there any list available where, they would know that, okay, for these kind of products, BIS certification is necessary, or where like any portal or where we can provide them, or you can help us share it with them?
We can help you. So there is a link, Amrita, on the BIS website. There is a particular page called product certifications and mandatory product certifications. So over there, all of the QCOs that have been released for all product categories are listed along with their respective IS standards. We can share that with you, and accordingly we can check.
Yeah, because I think because it's a common, like everybody based on their products, whatever they are using or whatever they need to import or export, questions are coming based on that.
We understand.
So I thank you so much for taking us through this lovely presentation and complex topic, as Jerry mentioned. So I would request Mr. Jiral Manoharan, our IACC Karnataka chapter's chairman, to deliver the vote of thanks.
Thank you so much, Ankur, Naina, and to Dezan Associates for presenting this very, very useful, session for us. I'm sure that our listeners and the participants in this session have benefited a lot. But I still, I'm actually personally leaving this session a little, half empty or, half full, better word to say, because I think there are so many interesting questions that were put up on the question board. You will probably need another 2 hours to go through some of these and to clarify, some of these questions. But I hope the participants who are listening to this session will directly write to Ankur and Naina and probably use some of their expertise in finding answers to a lot of these complex transactional and procedural issues. We get tied up very badly with procedural matters, and clients are at sea when that happens. And I think the expertise that they bring on the table will give, if not immediate solution, but will at least extend a comforting hand to a lot of the clients who will reach out to them. I'm very glad that we did this, and I'm sure, Ankur and Naina, we can definitely consider having a repeat session of this, so that more people will be benefited. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for the wonderful presentation. I think there was a lot of clarity in the way you articulated, every sentence of yours. The PowerPoint presentation was also very impressive and, easy to read and understand to some extent. So thank you very much. And Amrita, thanks for moderating all of this, despite, the difficulties you were facing with the location where you are presently. Thank you very much.
Thank you,
And-
Jerry.
and
Thank you, Jerry. Thank you so much for your work.
Big
Thank you,
thanks to
Amrita.
a big thanks to all
I
our
would
participants.
also request our past chairman, Mr. Stephen Matthias, to share his views with us and what was his or takeaway from this particular session.
Thanks, Amrita. Just a quick word. Yeah, it was a fantastic presentation and great to have you guys do this for us. I noticed, I think about half the people who participated had a question. And I just want to clarify one last thing, because I think you have potential clients just on this call. So I presume your profiles on your website will have your email address, right?
Yes.
Okay, so that's great I'm sure everyone wants to hear that, so they can contact you for more detailed advice. Thanks a lot, and great to have you. And IACC is trying to organize events which are very specific, very focused, and where we are able to bring experts who can help our members. So this is an event, I think, that's done really well in that regard. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Stephen, for your kind words. As well as Jerry, I think we would certainly love to clarify whatever doubts comes to our way, and we'll be happy to host another session for you.
Thank you very much. Thanks to Dezan Shira and Associates once again.
Thank you.
Thank you so much,
everyone.
everybody. Have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, everyone. And to all the attendees, we will share the recordings. We will share the details of the speakers. So not to worry, but just have patience with us for another few days by the time we have the recording and everything uploaded. So thank you so much. And Dezan Shira and Associates, Stephen, Jerry, and on behalf of IACC, a very good evening to all of you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.